Today on the Cristopolis show, I have the honor of interviewing Casual. He's part of the Hieroglyphics crew, known around the world. Casual has decades worth of music, but he just released a new album entitled Fight Over Egypt, and a new book entitled Black Like Osiris. We're going to bring him in and talk to him about the new album, the new book, what he's currently working on, and future plans. Let's bring him in. What's good, my bro?
What's
Thank
up?
you. It's an honor to have you on the Cristopolis show. You've been busy. New album, new book.
Oh, man. You know what? Seems like it's been a little bit easier to work too. You know what I'm saying? You in this day and age, like you got something you want to do. I hope people know it's a lot easier to get things done nowadays. And so that album was like the fruit of me debating with people online and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'll get mad and go do a song. And then I'm like, man, I got 12, 10, 11 of these things. I'll put that out. Shout out to my man, Cash Martin and Dead Perry. They always hold me down because I be kind of sporadic, spontaneous. I'm like, yo, I'm putting this out today. So they like, okay, cool. And it came
You're
out like that.
prolific with the pen. You got that spirit of the battle rapper that never goes away. You know what I'm saying? So you just take it from online debates right into the studio.
Basically. But I mean, the bar work, I mean, the level of how we want to be received by our audience is just like a straight up 2024 B-boy still. Like, you know, you could still just straight be about them bars and get your respect walking through this hip hop. And so, you know, that's all I've been just resting on.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting about you is that not only are you bar heavy, and you've always been bar heavy, a monster on the mic, always. With the new book, Black Like Osiris, everything that I've been seeing you do online, especially on your YouTube page where you're very active, and you've been dropping this knowledge and learning as an independent researcher, all of that's worked its way into your music also. Can you share with us, you know, the hip hop world, this place where you uniquely sit, right? Where you are an MC, part of a legendary crew, legendary body of work, but you also have this era now that you're in, that you're deep in with research, knowledge on Egypt, ancient Egypt. Can you share with us a little bit of what you got going on now?
Yeah. You know what? That's cool. It's funny because, well, I'm probably one of the only MCs who can read the ancient Egyptian language. You know what I'm saying? I think that sets me apart from a lot, and it also enhances my discourse when I'm reaching out to these Egyptologists and trying to get to the truth. I reached out to Dr. Jonathan Winterman from UCLA. He's their lead epigrapher dealing with, and we was building and reading text together. And I was in pursuit of a research question: how they determine. So the ancient name of Egypt is Kemet. My research question was, how did they determine that this name Kemet means the black land because of the fertile Nile silt as opposed to the people who populated the area, right? And so, yeah, exactly. It starts, I mean, a lot of the researchers who I talk to, Egyptologists, they like, oh, this is an interesting question. And we've got some admissions that have not really been placed. You can't find them anywhere but after our dialogues. And one of them that it was the key thing that he cited was racism. And so that was a grand admission for me to be able to get an Egyptologist to say that, you know what, they really didn't do any methodological studies to come up with that. They just came to some conclusions, and then it was a bad era. You know, everything was racist back in the day. And so since Egyptology was like early 1900s, it was easy for them to throw away the possibility that that could mean anything about black people and just say it's about the ground, it's about the fertile Nile silt. So, you know, the work I'm doing now, primarily, I'm really just chilling. I got another album coming out with my man Alan Overflow. So I just don't know if he was doing by Albert Jenkins or Overflow, but y'all can find him by either one. I think he's just Albert Jenkins right now. And we got a wonderful album coming out. The Starduster EP should be
Wow.
next month. But still, my primary thing has been doing this
When
research.
when the research happened, how did you start with that? Because that's not really something that you can necessarily learn easily. Like I jumped into one of your lives the other day, and you're sitting there reading hieroglyphics, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? I was like, we've been banging this name hieroglyphics for about 20 years now. And if anybody stepped up on us and really wanted to know something about the language, like if they was deep, we really wouldn't have nothing to say to them. And I didn't think that was right. I thought it wasn't the best representation of the artistic, hieroglyphics as we bring it. So I was like, at least one of us need to take it up to be the man to talk to if they wanted to probe and see how much was behind the name hieroglyphics.
That's dope. And when you first started getting interested in this, like, how did you? That's like a hard language. You can't grab Duolingo, right, and like start to learn. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I saw you were like deep into the hieroglyphics, and I was like, oh, he's really reading this.
Yeah. Well, when I first, you want to know what's funny? When we chose the name hieroglyphics as a group, me and Tajay went to Berkeley and we went to a bookstore and we bought Egyptological dictionaries because not because we wanted to start studying the language. We wanted to find some fly
Right.
rap names. Really, we was like, we're gonna go in an ancient Egyptian book and find some rap names that could sound raw.
That's a good
And
idea.
so,
That's
what
actually
I
a really
noticed
good
that
idea.
it turned out good for us. He took on Zosher, and I forgot what name I took on, but anyway, I think that not really planted a seed, but there were multiple times where I would pick up those dictionaries and be overwhelmed or like, man, this is just too much. But I think I planted in the back of my head like one day it ain't gonna be too much, and I'm gonna tackle it. And so as I started getting older in hip hop, and you try to think of what is a real spot for you in hip hop, it wasn't necessarily being anything that I was previously like braggadocio, all that. I got that on lock. I do it on the snap of the finger, but that doesn't really show any growth or advancement. You see what I'm saying? And so one thing I didn't want to do is tank my music with something newly learned that was not meshing well with my artistry and make me start sounding preachy. So I waited some years until it started coming out naturally in my bars. And like right now, it just come out so naturally in my bars that it don't even sound like I'm trying to teach nobody when I'm doing the song. Like that Fights Over Egypt album, it sound like regular down the line hip hop on
Yeah.
some 90s throwback. Like, you know what I'm saying? But if you listen harder, you like, damn, every song he dropping lugs about ancient Egypt. And so I feel that's really relevant and it would go good in my catalog coming from
So lit.
hieroglyphics.
Yeah, I was listening to the album. I was on your Bandcamp listening to the album and getting familiar with it. And it's like, what's really dope about your album is that you are an MC of the highest caliber. You are a part of hip hop history at this point. What you've done in Oakland, Hyro, everything, all the stories, the battle with Safari, everything. It's hip hop history, right? And
That's right.
you're at that caliber MC, but then you've got songs like The Bomb in Gaza. And I'm like, somebody's playing that right now in the Middle East. People who love American hip hop and they're into like underground hip hop. And this is the soundtrack that they're bumping right now. People all over are down with the diaspora of what Palestinians are going through and what people are going through all over the world, the struggle. You're capturing that raw hip hop spirit, how it was born, and talking about things that are still relevant in the Middle East on this brand new album you just dropped like less than a month ago.
Exactly. I appreciate you noticing that and speaking on it. Um, You know, man, watching the news, whatever propaganda machine is feeding you, you probably might start feeling different ways about some of the things that's going on in the world. One thing I hope is that we're all wise enough to at least use various media sources when we're getting our information, because we don't got no, well, unless you're on social media, you will get a hand to hand, first hand account, somebody probably standing right in
Yeah.
Palestine showing you what's going on. But being so overwhelmed by the images, by the thoughts of what you think this country is all about, or at least what they tell you the country is about, and then the actions they support contradicting what they're telling you it's about, it just make you want to express something. If not, if you didn't have a way to express it artistically, then you might find some of the other ways that people express it. So I'm happy to have a way to express that feeling that it give me and just get it out. And I'm just like, dang, I'm not Mr. Martin Luther King, but yeah, injustice anywhere is starting to feel right
Yeah.
like it's at home. You know, the more you let it go on, you like, well, damn, I'm one of the people too. Because somebody on earth is crying big ass tears, wondering why
Yeah.
nobody won't help, and you just kicking back, not giving no effort. It's part of the problem. You know
Definitely.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
It's a dope album. Fight Over Egypt, available right now on Bandcamp. Are there plans for that to later come online to the streaming platforms, or is it going to stay as an exclusive on your Bandcamp?
Man, we should have been stopped doing them streaming platforms as artists. I mean, I started doing hand to hand only and platforms like Bandcamp only a long time ago. So we still subservient to the band in that regard. Like we won't hop off the hamster wheel, even though they publicly admit they pay you at a rate that you cannot get paid in any other industry in the world. And this is what I mean. Besides the stock market, you'll never, and I don't think they could do that on the stock market. They'll never give you a fraction, a hundredth
Wow.
of a penny in any industry. Name an industry where you can perform a service or get your intellectual property used and it generates a fraction of a cent. So they manufactured and put together some new crazy stuff to continue ripping off artists. And I'm a man, yo. I don't care what other people doing. I gotta feel right inside my body, inside my gut. I'm not no follower. I got so many distribution deals. I'm actually renegotiating a distribution deal where I'm about to make them come off some paper just so we
Mm,
can continue being with them. Then I got an Empire deal. Ghazi is
mm,
my main man. You know, Ghazi who run Empire. So it wouldn't be a thing to get these things on get my music on all social platforms like my
mhm.
next album is going to be, because I ain't in complete control of that. I did a 50-50 with my mans, and I'm not forcing people into my thought. But with my
Yeah.
own shit, please, I would prefer really if I could hand sell it again to everybody at the show. And because I don't know if you're familiar with an album I had called Truck Driver, but that was a
Yeah, you
release
have the
that
hat
I
and
only
everything.
did hand to hand sales. Oh, yeah, yeah, we had a hat. Yeah, I only did hand to hand sales on that album for like 10 years. Then I put it on digital. So it was a point in my life where everybody who had that product got it directly from me out of my hand. And that felt good to
Yeah.
me because it's
Yeah.
art.
And it's special for them. It's for them.
True. You
Yeah.
know,
I
exactly.
think that one of the ways that artists have been approaching it, especially right now that we're going through a bit of a hip hop renaissance, especially in the underground, is that they'll release it on Bandcamp. They'll do limited run physical merchandise, and then later, further on, they may release it on, through DistroKid or something like that. But I think that there's a lot to um, like, how do you say it, like not being compliant, like casual should do it, casual and high roll. You guys are a big enough brand and can do enough that like you make your own decisions and you put it where it makes sense for you at that moment in time.
Definitely. And just to talk about some of the back end of stuff, we talked about the fractions of a penny you get for a stream. But Bandcamp still giving you what? Say you charge $1 for a song, you still getting 85 cents. So they taking 50. Now that makes a huge difference if you're an artist who really living off
Yeah,
your music. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's good. For the people that are jumping in now, we're talking about the new album that Casual has out called "Fight Over Egypt." It's available on his Bandcamp. Additionally, he has a new book out called "Black Like Osiris." Could we jump into the book a little bit? Right, this is research book.
Let's talk about the
Yeah,
book.
what is Black Like Osiris about?
Thanks for asking. And so when it comes to the study of ancient Egypt, not only Afrocentrists, but all students of the study will encounter a black reality that has no explanation, no outright explanation. What I mean is there's an ancient Egyptian term, Kim. It means black. A feminine version of that is Kemet, which is their land, Egypt. There also was a name that they would adorn themselves with, Kim, Kimu, Kimi, which will give us things like black, black E, believe it or not, and in an abstract state of blackness. Now, we also have concepts that were developed in Egyptology, not in Kemet. And what my book proves is that there is no primary source, meaning we can't find the ancient Egyptians ever saying that our land is called the Black Land because of the Fertile Nile Silk. You see what I'm saying? Instead, that was an Egyptological injection. So when dealing with, and I have not even mentioned other multiple points inside their black reality, they venerated the black bull over other bulls. And the king was seen as the bull of bull. And they called this black herd of bulls, Kemet to you, exactly what they call their people. And so my book is trying to bring some clarity. And I also left out the divine symbolism, which encompasses one having an all black effigy in the afterlife to be able to resemble a term they call Kaka'u Zama, which was the primordial waters of existence. And so they had deep concepts that it requires a lot of explanation because one pushed too far on the Afrocentrist side may think everything that we see that's black in Egypt mean, oh, look, it's about black people. And one who is trying to disprove that might just say, oh no, I have evidence that this is about a divine monarchy in the afterlife, and therefore it got nothing to do with black people. My book tries to bring a synergy between our infused, not really infused because it's not me infusing it, but it is explaining the multifold of this symbolism, and one does not negate the other, and just teach us how to pinpoint these things when we come across them in ancient Egyptian text and vignettes.
That's really, really it's good, man. It's good, and I love how and if I could try to for the people that aren't as deep into this as you are, what I took away was that in Egyptology, which is the study that they've created around ancient Egypt, not necessarily the texts themselves, but the thing that they built on top of that, right? That we built in our recent
Uh-huh.
times to try to understand the language and everything. That's what you're referring to as Egyptology. And in that they've made certain assumptions. And those assumptions, they've just kind of run with it in an academic scholarly way without ever proving those assumptions. So they've gone on to call Kemet something that it probably isn't when you go back and read it from a different lens.
Exactly. And even grosser is that it may indeed be related to a history of
Yeah.
black people. And so now if this is the case, then this would fall right into everything we've been hearing about oppressing the history of Africans and all of this type of stuff. And so now I just give heavy evidence, but I don't weigh in on anything conclusively because I think it's enough evidence for the reader to at least mount their own armchair suspicions. Like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
telling me something that's fishy.
What
You know what I'm saying?
when you
Yeah.
started learning the language and actually being able to read what is written, what is actually out there, and you can look at it and you can start to actually like piece it together once you understand the language. How much do we actually not know? How deep does the rabbit hole of ancient Egypt? And because from my understanding, the pyramids and everything that was there, that was already there for like 3,000, 4,000, even more before, Cleopatra and all this stuff that we kind of think about, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Cleopatra, Egypt. There's that thing that I think you think of in movies and stuff. But Egypt goes back thousands of years before that. That was already, they didn't know those people. That's before them. Can you chip into how much we actually don't
Exactly.
know?
We don't know
Mm,
more than we know.
mm,
You know what I mean? And it's like that with a lot of situations. You can become a master in some things and still understand there's a world of information that you have that has not even been discovered yet. So I don't want to leave it up to the things that are undiscovered. Let's just say one museum, and I think it is the British Museum or the museum in Cairo. They have 5 million ancient Egyptian artifacts.
one museum.
Think about that. Not 5,000. Yeah,
One
go ahead.
museum.
One museum. Now think about how much time it would actually take their curators and scholars to even go through what they have already. And so at this point, even in 2024, I just was talking to the lead Egyptologist at Cal Berkeley who invited me into the basement, like, yo, I'm gonna just show you a bunch of unpublished stuff. And he's like, we can sit there and work on some translations that have not even been produced to the world. So we get proud of our knowledge, even though in ancient Egypt we're instructed away from doing so. But we get proud of our knowledge, and when it comes to inside your head making personal steps, there's no problem with that. But it is a problem in the world because as soon as you start to thinking like you super, I know Egypt, man, you can get humbled real quick. Like I have been humbled by just other PhDs who were not on no BS. They was really like about their studies, and I was like, well, I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot we
I,
don't
I
know.
find I find you fascinating, and the fact that you've gone so deep into this area, and I love the study of Egypt really, and it's not something that I kind of like was really into necessarily in the beginning, but like little things kind of pulled me, into having the interest. One is there was a documentary that I saw, and basically they kind of connected the dots of all the stories and in Christianity and Judaism and other religions, and how they're kind of like they're basically plays off of Egyptian religion. Like when you kind of go back, a lot of the Egyptian belief systems are the precursors to most everything that came after. Did you kind of run into that also?
Uh, that's a good question. And so there is a common debate on that subject, like right now on the new social media, where the scholars, some quote unquote Christian apologists, are mounting a defense saying that's not the case. And then I can show you plenty of Egyptologists down to I think Maggie Bryson even says so, and a few others that Christianity was heavily influenced by Egypt, by Kemet or what have you, the religions of Egypt. And so one would have to do, in my own studies, I found so much to make it, well, I don't want to say so much, but I found evidence to where if I was to go along that research trail, because that's not really my primary concern, you know what I'm saying, that I think that it would be a good argument to mount that
Mm-hmm.
influences which are not necessarily bad. You know what I'm saying? You can see influences all over the place. Some will go as far to say that the story of Heru and Jesus, and then there's been a lot of discrediting about that. But in ancient tradition, they did really celebrate, believe it or not, around what would be December 20th, because that was not on the Gregorian calendar, but they still was on the same astrological calendar. So they would have a celebration 3 days after the winter solstice, right? And then they would even bring forth who was in a Roman tale. I can bring all this up, but I don't got my sources on me. But they would bring out an image of just the young child or the
Yes.
young, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say the Messiah or the chosen one, but their divine young one was brought out on that day. And so it's hard to get away from it, but if you want to make direct claims like it was stolen,
Yeah,
that'd be harder to
the
prove.
while you were talking, I remembered the movie that kind of like pulled me deep into that rabbit hole. It's called Zeitgeist. And Zeitgeist, you ever heard that joint,
Yeah,
Zeitgeist?
I remember that joint. I remember when that was the
And
only
that
movie
movie
like
had
that.
that real interesting moment, and they're making the claim in the documentary, so you'd have to kind of go research and go down the rabbit hole. But at least the way they laid out the information, they showed the parallels between different religious belief systems, and then how it all got back to Egypt, right? And that we that and that's like the oldest, or one of the very oldest major civilizations, right? So that documentary really kind of like put it on my radar, really, of like how deep and how ancient Egypt goes. um Now that you've been studying it, you have a book out, um you know to whatever you can share, for it to not impose on your scholarly research. How do you think? Yeah,
I'm sure everything. I'm
how
really
did that
good.
happen? How does ancient Egypt happen? How do they get so advanced? Where does this all come from?
Wonderful questions. Now we have to go back. We're not gonna go all the way back to the African human period, but we'll go back to a time where there was climate change in Africa. At about 10,000 9,500 BC, uh, there starts to get a change in what we know as the Sahara Desert today. If we do research at about 9,500 BC and beyond, or earlier than that, the Sahara is what we know as the
Oh,
Green Sahara, with mega lakes and I mean, I don't want to say super populations, but they said they had populations inside of the Green Sahara that by 4,500 BC were called. We dealt with the arid period where things started to dry up a bit, and but by the time of 4,500 BC, they was looking following the animals towards where water was now. You know what I'm saying? That's not, of course, that's a very long period of time. But now they say if there's an area in the southwest corner of Egypt, and it's called Nabta Playa, Nabtaplaya. Anybody can look it up. Now, Nabta Playa is famous for having one of the oldest solar clocks. People try to act like Stonehenge is it or whatever, but it's one in Africa called Nabta Playa that dates back to about probably before 4,500. But what we have there is evidence of people migrating out of the Green Sahara coming into the lower Nile
okay.
River areas. And we also got evidence that it was people already there. But if you want to go into some of the cultures that predated Egypt in the direct area of Egypt, we talk about the Tazian culture, the Badarian culture, or even culture, Tafarian culture, all which can be is a scholar named Maria Gatto who says all of these cultures can be traced back to a Nubian complex from the 5th millennium BC. So what happens, it appears, is there was a mandated, I don't know if it's geological. What is it mandated by the change of weather? That's not geological. It's more like when dealing with the air. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
but there was
anyway,
a weather
there
there
was an
was a weather
atmosphere.
shift, a major weather
That's what I'm
shift.
trying to say. I couldn't think of the correct name for that, so that's what. Thanks to rewording. It was such a weather shift that caused people to migrate from the Green Sahara to find a water source, and the most prevalent water source being the Nile River, which flows from south to north, unlike other
Yeah.
rivers. You see what I'm saying? And that becomes significant too when we start to talk about what made these people do what they did, where they did it, and how did it grow to such excellence. Let's just say, in our advanced civilization, we seen ourselves come from coal steamboats or whatever, all the way up to like hypersonic missiles,
Now we
and you know what I'm
trying to go to
saying?
Mars,
In this little
right?
series of exactly. In 400 years. So even though they were not along the same trajectory as us, imagine how advanced whatever trajectory they were on, they could develop their systems in 3,000 years and more. You see what I'm saying? And so I was talking for a
Yeah,
long
man. No,
time. So
it's really interesting. So for these Nubian cultures that predate the ancient Egyptians, were they as advanced, or when they get to Egypt, do they finally get a chance to like settle down because they've been migrating for so many millenniums?
so now we also have to understand and respect that the areas of Egypt is an area of confluence. People from different areas are going to come in for different reasons because it's right there connected to Israel and the Middle East. But what people don't understand when they talk about the formational elements of Egypt is that nothing was popping in the north. In the Delta, that's to the ancient Egyptian, that's considered the bottom of Egypt. And I can explain why, as I just detailed earlier, the river in the Nile flows from
Hmm.
south to north, right? And so you're going downstream, being pushed away from the source when you reach
Mm.
the delta. You see what I'm saying? In order to go up to what they call Upper Egypt, you have to go upriver. So this let us know that they had a centrism which was based towards the center of Africa, just geologically, just because that's what their habitat provided for. Since the river was flowing from south to north and the beginning was deeper into Africa, they called the areas deeper into Africa Upper Egypt, and they called the areas by the delta Lower Egypt. Now, one thing is significant. If we go into the study today, everyone will tell you there is a Sudanese Nubia and there is also an Egyptian Nubia. But we don't know it like that because Nubia was a region. It's taught to us like Egyptians were one people and Nubians were another people. Well, when we start to do the study, we can unravel things like this. There's no etymon to Nubia, quote unquote. The only etymon you'll get to that is an ancient Egyptian word, nup, for gold. But if you want to start talking about a people, what Egyptologists did, they took a term that means southerner, right? And they made it into a
Mm.
people group. So imagine if we did
Yeah.
that in America. Southerners is just Southerners, people who live in the South. As soon as they don't live in the South no more, they're not even Southerners no more. But if you make them a people group, then you can employ the device of saying Egyptians was this and Nubians was that. Because the word Nubian don't exist, it comes from a term Nahesi, and Nahesi
Mm.
simply means a Southerner. And so that right there was problematic in my whole detail because if we don't understand that, it's easier for us to believe that something different happened when one people got into another area. No, it was Egyptologists who separated. They basically took anybody with a darker hue and said those were Nubians, and they stick to that to this day. and I'll end with this, not end, but I'll end this statement with this. There is a official of the 18th dynasty who had one of the most royal and elaborate tombs ever built. His name is Mai Hepri. Mai Hepri depicted himself darker than me. You can't tell the difference between his hair and his face when he draw himself in his own, when he had himself depicted in his own tomb. He's buried in the Valley of the Kings. I guarantee you, if you just type the name in Google right now, every place they talk about him, they call him a Nubian. They call him a Nubian to separate him out of the Egyptian culture. But he never once called himself a Nubian, and nor did he call himself Nahesi. He wasn't even a Southerner. So it's crazy how they take these liberties. Now they say, okay, if they dark skinned, they Nubian. And that's problematic. And just to end and to make sure I'm answering the question right, it was not necessarily a big civilization change, because this is if you will allow me, because it's multifold to this. Here's something else we need to know. That the floodplain, the geology of Upper Egypt, which is closer to the heart of Africa, there's a narrow flow of the Nile which cannot cut out a floodplain in the limestone substrate. When it gets up higher, it's sandstone, or vice versa. When we get up higher, it's limestone, and it's easier to cut through, because I think one is harder than the other, and I'm inverting them. Nevertheless, the point I need people to know is that it was, if you want to say God or nature or the universe, who made it so that agriculture could prevail in the areas of Egypt, while a little bit lower, the archery prevailed. So you know how this turned out. It turned out so much so that the ancient, the Nubian, or the person, the Southerner, right, developed skill with archery that was so good that they had to hire these people to be the police of Egypt, called the Magi. And so and then you ask yourself, in ancient times, how could they have quote unquote all black police but not be black? Like, how would that work
Right.
for a society?
Right.
Like,
That's fascinating, man. The deeper you go in, you realize how much we don't know, and how much of what's been actually explained as, these well-researched, academic, scholarly, scientific method aren't really scientific. They're somebody made an assumption, somebody kind of like took language, semantics, and kind of ran with it in a certain direction.
and in some instances, I don't want to discredit the scientific method because it prevails in a lot of instances. But we got to understand what we're dealing with is not like somebody taking something wrong. It's more systematic, and then it's fortified. So you can fortify a lie with hella textbooks, and then it will give the appearance of being real. So they create something. They say, look, this is the explanation. We're rolling with this explanation, and now let's fortify this explanation with 500 textbooks that all say the same thing.
Got it. That's good. I got a chance to jump into one of you're very active on your YouTube channel, right? That's one of the main places where you engage often. Um, I jumped into one of your lives, and you were actually breaking down, you were giving a lesson. You were actually giving a lesson and showing people what things meant. Can you talk to us about that? Do you do that often? Is there like an ongoing class that you have? If people want to participate, how can they do that?
Um, You know what? I was about to put together a class for this group on Facebook called Chemitology. There's 76,000 people in the group, and we got about 25 people who said they want to do the class. So I know everybody who's on Facebook, if you type Chemitology, you'll see a few fake groups, and then you see the one that's really active. Like, that's the one, and so that's a good place. My YouTube is Smash Rockwell, I don't do any formal type of teaching, but it's always a learning environment that I
Yeah.
like to host. You know what I'm saying? So we might be listening to some hip hop, and if we start going too far down the hip hop road, I might put something we can learn from up on the screen, and it seems to work. But I mean, if somebody really had the passion and wanted to go in, they could just the best way to do is start following my YouTube and build it in our videos, and then we can set things up. It's because it's not just me; it's a lot of other brothers who are good
That's
at this
dope,
as
man.
well.
That's dope. When we think about like all of the albums that you've released, and then now you've got the book, I'm trying to figure out like what's the next thing. Are you just gonna like continue to increase your knowledge and understanding and ability to translate, or do you plan on doing something further, like maybe a documentary, maybe a series of books? Where do you see yourself going long term with everything you're learning in ancient Egypt?
I'm more. I don't think I will haphazardly just wander into anything. My next ambition, like I'm scheduling my
Yeah.
life. You know what I'm saying? And one of my next ambitions is to put some focus on bringing forth a new hieroglyphics album. You know what I'm saying? Like with all of us rapping, we out here, and so I'm like, that is one of my focuses for upcoming projects. I don't intend to, and also I draw albums like a picture artist steps to a canvas, so to speak. I don't want my albums to be seeming successional. It's not one after other. Like you're not looking at me develop. You're looking at my artistic mind who had an idea, and I want to paint this picture. That don't mean my next album gonna be about Kimmy. It could be totally grimy, or it could be totally mature. It depends on what the next picture I feel like painting. And so that's something I look at a lot of artists do that albums seem like they're not really going to let imagination do much, and it's just going to be the progress of their life. And you can hear a rapper get older, and then you can hear his bars not sounding as good. Then you can hear his, and you be like, how is that the same brain? I'm trying to avoid that completely by keeping out of that space. And one of my main things I've done was make sure that it's fun for me. It got to be fun. I'm talking about just like when they used to say, when you was losing the game, they just
Yeah.
say, just make sure you're having fun. Well, that was a real good lesson because if it ain't fun for you, then you just gonna be like,
Yeah.
why am I doing it?
That's
You know what I'm
good,
saying?
man. I think a lot of people will be excited about a new hieroglyphics album. You think that that's a 2025 project?
So 2025 or 2026, but in my imagination of the album, we need to be as far ahead of MCs as we were when we put out our initial albums. That's what it needs to be. So if we need to go create some new styles, if we need to rap to some different time beats, it needs to be just as far above them so they can still know. Like, dang, we thought we caught up to them. We have, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody feel like they caught up, they could bust the flows we was busting, but they gotta remember, we was busting when nobody was busting them. Just coming out the cosmos with a new flow. And so we're not the only ones. Plenty of rappers have done that. I'm just saying, but when I'm speaking on my crew, that's what we did. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
No, there's something truly special about Hyro. A lot of crews, in the decades that have, you know, passed since hieroglyphics came out and were introduced to the world, a lot of crews have come out, but there's not that many to stand the test of time the way the hieroglyphics crew has stood the test of time, and that's just facts. If you could share with us, how did y'all meet? How did Hyro come together?
We all lived in the same hood. And we made each other just as good. Um, I'm talking about we met at ages you wouldn't believe. Like I was in kindergarten with A plus and Tajay, and I met Dell in about the third grade. You know
Wow.
what I'm saying? We obviously wasn't rapping, but when breakdancing and rapping became a thing, we started trying to do that too. And so what we developed was a healthy competition against us. We was always trying to smash each other. You see what I'm saying? Like I would wait looking out because I couldn't come outside. If I came outside, I could only spend like 30 minutes. So I would save my 30 minutes and time it to when they was walking up the hill so we could have a battle. You know what I'm saying? Like we were doing it like that. And once we start getting into junior high school and when protection became a thing and crews was coming out, we start thinking like, why we all individual? If we came together, it'd be hell of us. So Dale was like, let's just form a crew instead of battling. You know what I'm saying? And everybody said yeah on day one, like hell yeah. I remember when Dale said that, and when A Plus and Tajay looked at each other to give a confirmation if they wanted to let me
You're
be
too
there.
nasty
You
with the
feel what
bars.
I'm saying?
You're too nasty with the bars.
Yeah, they looked at each other and was like, hell yeah, you feel me? But we was all homies before that from elementary. But we just didn't rap with each other. And so we said we're gonna start rapping with each other. Dale was the leader, he came up with hella names and shit. And we were starting to get some notoriety once we got together. You know, we'd go to clubs deep and everybody was rapping. Then they'd be like, who's these dudes? They like 10 deep and they all grabbing the mic at a different time and spitting. You feel me?
Yeah, y'all changed hip hop. And you definitely changed hip hop in Oakland because Oakland was known, for that bass, that 80s Too Short, 808, which is dope, you know what I'm saying? And y'all came with a very different sound.
Yeah, what we did was let people know that it was bars on the West Coast. Because honestly, before us, we only got labeled with Too Short sounding music, right? Which is stuff I loved, I grew up on, but it wasn't what I did. I didn't do that. I didn't want to do that. But I loved it. Just like he don't want to rap like a backpack rapper, or he don't want to have. I don't want to say he don't want to have bars, but his main focus
Nah,
ain't the lyrics. Yeah, exactly. He like, why you focus so much on the lyrics, John? That's one of my real good friends, and so I'm not saying I'm not fronting, but Short hella cool with me. He brought me on hella projects because of what I do. He never wanted me to try to sound like them anyway, and
yeah,
that wasn't my ambition.
yeah. That's dope, man. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing the background story on Hyro and how y'all met. That's incredible. There's a story that I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about, just because I think it's important for hip hop. Um, there's a legendary battle that you are a part of. This has been documented many times and talked about many times, but I don't think we should ever stop talking about it because it's such an important part of um, hip hop history. Can you share with us a bit about the legendary battle that you had with Safari?
Yeah, with Saphir, it was 1997, 1996, something like that. In case people want to see a real production on it, there's a video on my YouTube page, Smash Rockwell, called "The Battle," done by Shamari Smith. It's a 30-minute video. It's hella good. It got Sway talking. It got everybody talking about that battle. And so it went down real life. He didn't like some action I committed. I didn't show up at the studio, but he made it seem like that. Anyway, I didn't show up for a studio session. He said he wasted some studio time and wanted beef with me. But we was homies like the day before. And so that was like, and I don't get it. If I was really your homie the day before, you can't overlook that and we can't just go to the studio tomorrow and do some other stuff. But nah, he said he didn't like what I said on the phone, and we had problems after that. To me, I always rolled my eyes at that explanation and just looked at it like somebody who was trying to get on. I had a record deal. He didn't. He was trying to get on, and so he just wanted to battle. He thought that was the way to get on. But 30 years later, we both kick back with each other, sit at the bar, and laugh about that. He actually came to my was it my 20th anniversary party, 25th or something? He was there. And so we talk about childhood battles and some of the ways we felt about them, but I don't even
Yeah,
trip
no,
off that no
no, it's
more.
a good
I'm
story.
glad that we had that event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I remember hearing about that story even out on the East Coast where I grew up at. It's a story that actually was like one of those legendary hip hop stories about the way it all went down. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
good. The new album, Fight Over Egypt, is available right now at Casual's Bandcamp. The new book, Black Like Osiris, available right now on Amazon. That book delves in deep into the ancient Egyptian studies that Casual's been doing. I saw you reading the actual language. I was blown away by that. Do you go live on your YouTube often? Is it something that's scheduled? How do people, connect with you in that way?
So my fall schedule is like I get up and do 7 in the morning. It might be 10 o'clock on the East Coast, but I let my streams kind of like run all day. I might talk for 2 hours and then I let the audience talk for the rest, and they really be having good builds. So I don't be wanting to close it down. But I don't really have a schedule. I might just go live anytime I know it's better to have a schedule. If you're looking forward to a schedule, it'd be my morning shows. But again, it's kind of like hip hop edutainment. And if anybody wanted to cut the edutainment part out and just get the knowledge, we're available to do that too. We got platforms for that. But if you really want it like that, take your ass to school.
Absolutely.
You feel me?
Casual, my bro, it's been an honor. It's been an honor to talk to you about your new album, Fight Over Egypt, the new book, Black Like Osiris. Your incredible career truly has. I look forward to listening to the new album that you're going to be dropping in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word up. Yep, that started us with Albert Jenkins. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, man. It was good. Thanks for talking to your audience. And if y'all ain't following Smash Rockwell on YouTube, go on and follow that channel. We do the knowledge.
Absolutely.
We do the knowledge.
Casual, it's a pleasure, my bro. Thank you so much.
Word up. Peace, peace. Thank y'all for watching.